Hello guys, and welcome to another day with Zimaleta. In today's video, I would like to actually attempt to replace a rear axle flange, the bearing, the seal in one of my sprinters. Hey guys, the whole reason I'm actually doing this video here is I wanted to attempt to replace the rear pinion type of bearings in my sprinter. And I wanted to kind of like learn how to do it and then share with you guys what I learned from it and that kind of thing. But basically what you're looking at is this is a bearing here that I pulled out of there, and the flange goes on top of that. Then this 32 millimeter screw goes. I'm gonna actually talk about these things in the video if you want to stay for it. But the main thing I wanted to do, guys, is actually remove that bearing. I mean, nothing's shaking over here, but I want to kind of learn how to do it on my part sprinter instead of, before I tackle this on my main sprinter. And I think this actually will end up being a big job. In today's video, what I want to do is I want to actually replace the rear differential flange and the bearing and the seal. Now, this is actually going on in this sprinter that I'm sitting in, and you could see I got some part sprinters over there. There's a door open on that one. So this particular sprinter, when I drive, it creates noise at about 65 miles an hour through like 68, possibly some 69, at about like 63 as well. So at about 60 miles an hour, you cannot really hear the noise. And at about 70 miles an hour, you cannot hear the noise. But of course, you're not always going to drive 60 miles an hour. You're not always going to drive 70 miles, due to the restrictions of speed limits and stuff like that. But the noise, when I'm driving, it doesn't sound like high pitch like I've heard it described before. You could just tell it's there. It more sounds like you have like no oil in the rear differential, and the gears are working on dry, type of sound. And I guess that sound would really describe it, if you know what I mean. It's just kind of like this very constant sound that sounds like metal on metal. Is the gears actually going? Like, it's not like really rubbering or screeching, like it's not doing none of those things. Now, I did inspect the rear flange in the rear differential of this vehicle. It is the cross, type of section that is towards the back, and this is the one you attach the drive shaft to. Now, when I removed the drive shaft, there was really apparent play at a flange type of area, so you could just move it up and down. And even before removing the drive shaft, I could see that the seal was leaking, and you could see it's all up and on top of the body of the sprinter and stuff like that, towards the bottom over there. And I actually showed you guys this in one of my videos when I was talking about rear differential needed to be replaced. It's one of the things that I noticed. Now, to remove the flange, you do need a puller. Okay, I don't have a puller. I believe you could actually rent a puller from the parts place, and what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to rent one. But we're not going to be using it in this video, possibly the next, when we actually do the actual replacement of this van. And I know what you're saying. You just told us we're going to actually do this. Yes, we kind of will. What we actually will do is that part sprinter over there. And this is just for, like, I don't know, for the sake of the viewers that say, hey, I don't have the puller and I cannot rent one. Can I do it? Well, actually, can I do this on the side of the road if I have, the proper tools and stuff? And that's actually what I'm trying to figure this out as well. And that rear differential there, at least the actual dual slip, limited slip differential, it's not working on that one. But I believe my seal is good. And I was told that particular rear differential was rebuilt and it was installed on this vehicle. But it was making a lot of noise, guys, actually a lot more than this one was at the time when I actually decided to replace it. I just went ahead and just replaced the whole rear differential with the parts one. And the parts rear differential I took from that van and I installed it here, the whole piece, guys. So now what I'm going to attempt doing is I'm going to go back to that rear differential, a little bit reverse, on that van right there. And I'm going to try to attempt to remove the flange, remove the seal, and hopefully we can get the bearing out. And I do have the replacement bearing, or so I think. I have like 3 brand new small bearings that I ordered a while back for this type of job. I don't have the new seal because at the time when I ordered the bearings, I just ordered the bearings, just in case. Now, I want to remove the flange with nothing but a hammer, and that's pretty much it. And at least to get you guys familiar with what this job actually requires you to do, the way I've been doing it before. If I am successful at removing that rear flange, great. You know, then it means I guess it could be done. I don't know if you could damage, you know, the bearing or the seal. I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. If you broke down on the side of the road and you don't have the proper puller for it, you know, should you attempt to do this yourself and see how hard it is. Now, let's go ahead and go to the sprinter. I'm going to explain to you further. So guys, we are at the part sprinter. This is the rear flange, and as you could tell, this one's fairly solid. It does not rotate at all. So the very first thing you're gonna need to do is probably like use a screwdriver like this to tap this piece out right there. You see that little square piece? This is a little indentation. Once they actually install this screw, whatever this thing is, I forgot the name of it. Once they install it, they tap it in right there close to the edge to the right side, you know, to keep it from untightening like this. But anyways, to remove it, you're gonna need like one of these. This is a size right there, which is a 32. For me to remove it, I just use this here. It was actually fairly easy to remove. I just, you know, put my elbow into it and I removed it. So you could just remove that, and then you're faced with the very next thing, which is this rear flange. And you could see part of it is out right there already, and this is because I've been kind of tapping at it with the hammer. I mean, all the stuff is pretty solid, you know, it's, you know, the aesthetics of it is already looking kind of ugly with all the rust and everything. So I'm not too concerned with, you know, putting some nicks in the metal, you know, and stuff like that. So you could see the rear seal here. It is very apparent that the seal is not leaking. The seal actually looks really good to me. Possibly what I'll do is I'll actually reuse the seal, and we will see if the seal actually will leak. But what I've been doing is, guys, is I just been kind of like tapping on all the different edges, kind of like you would be removing the tire, kind of like in the star pattern, just tapping on it with the hammer. It is kind of difficult. I think we're very close to being out. And as I'm tapping, I actually replace this piece just a little bit, screw it on there. This way it won't like go flying everywhere. But basically just tap, 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 going kind of like all the way around. It's kind of like annoying, and it is kind of like a big job in that. Definitely having a puller for this rear flange would be very nice. But this is my first time, and I'm assuming this is probably your first time removing it as well. Now, if you're watching this thing sometime in 2019, after February, take a look in the description below. Or even somewhere in February, see if I have the actual video how you're supposed to actually replace this thing using a puller, because I'm gonna actually check with my parts store, see if they have it, and I'll try to record the proper video for you guys. But we're not gonna go into all the technicals like having all these measuring tools and whatnot. But I will tell you this: this flange needs to be tightened at 30 Newton meters. But there's all kinds of steps, like you have to like twist at 15. You know, like spin this thing 15 this way and 15 that way, but my tires are on and you can't really spin this. When you're doing this job, you should have this vehicle kind of like on lift or propped up to where the rear wheels are going to be completely off, and you could actually rotate this thing, you know, to the left and to the right. But mine does not have an anti-slip you know, differential on this vehicle, so both of them definitely needs to be up, or this thing will not rotate. Now, when removing this nut, one last thing I'm going to give you before we actually see in the video whether I did remove this or not. I'm not going to record me tapping on this thing with the hammer. I think it's not really necessary. But in order to remove this nut, yeah, I guess that's what it's called, is this 32 millimeter nut here. I've seen guys use a tool that attaches to these two screw holes. It looks like a U-shape with a handle to remove it. But I'm thinking this, guys, if you're gonna actually attempt to remove this, don't remove your rear tires until you're ready. You know, until you're ready to until you actually remove this nut first, because if the two tires are on the ground, this thing will not be slipping anyways. Like, you're going to be pretty much stuck, because even in a, you know, if your rear differential is fine, if you lift up like one end of the tire and rotate it, this thing will spin. But if both tires on the ground, chances are this thing should not be spinning at all. So just use the tool at that time and go ahead and like loosen it. And once you loosen it, then if you don't have the tool, maybe tap it out with a hammer. Now, I'm not going to tell you that is correct way of doing it. I'm not a mechanic, as I always been telling you guys. I'm just, you know, pretty much a hobbyist. I'm a, you know, DIY, do-it-yourselfer. And I share my knowledge with you guys, what I learned on my own. And without watching any videos or learning how to do this, guys, I attempted to do this and just kind of like tapping it out. But then I kind of stopped, and I'm thinking, you know, this is a lot of work tapping it out. There's got to be a puller for this. And this is actually when I looked this video up, and I found that there is a puller for this thing. So possibly I could rent one from the rental place. So anyways, let me go ahead and tap it out. And anyways, guys, like literally after turning the camera off, I was tapping on it for less than a minute, and you know, it's already, you could already see that it's attempting to kind of come loose. So, you know, this is what I just been doing, kind of like just doing that here, just to keep things even. So it's getting ready to fall out of there. So you could see you can actually do this if you're on the road somewhere. So let me see here. There's probably a lot of mechanics out there watching this and cringing of what I'm doing here, but you know, keep in mind, I'm not telling you how to do this properly. All I'm saying is I want to find out whether you can do this without a tool or not, because a lot of jobs you don't have to have a tool, you could just do it. But most parts stores now, they will rent you a tool and you know, things of that nature. But you could see, guys, that it's undamaged, everything is good. But I also believe that if your shaft, if this flange has the play, possibly it is damaged. So there's a good chance that I'll actually need this flange on my other Sprinter, because mine's probably damaged, because it's really having a lot of play in it. So let's set that aside. Let's take a closer look at what we have here. So you could clearly see that this seal is good. You could see it's dry. It wasn't leaking. In order to remove this seal here, you just have to kind of get in there and prop it out of there. I'm probably gonna have to do this off camera because I think it probably, I'm not sure, but the way it's bending, I'm hoping that it's not together with metal, you know, type of seal, because then, yeah, I will not be able to reuse this. I'll have to just buy one, I guess. I'm all about saving money. I attempted to kind of like very lightly to keep prying this, you know, this seal and stuff like that. But I could tell you this for sure, guys, that this seal is not going to be something that you would want to replace at all. Like, it seems to me that this is a one-time deal. You take it out, you put a new one in, and don't try to do this job twice. That's just my recommendation. But you know what? For those of you guys that like to save money like me, I'm doing that for you guys, just to find out whether you could save it or not. But chances are you don't have a part Sprinter, so you know, if you're trying to do this job on your Sprinter, the seal is leaking, so you need to replace it anyway. So this is the only reason I brought it up, like if you could replace it. So because this Sprinter is a part Sprinter, I would like to note that there's no shaft play over here. You know, I have to remove the flange and stuff like that. So this is something I'm going to need to look for when I actually remove the flange on my other Sprinter, if there's any shaft play. And if it is shaft play, it's a good chance that it's a bearing that actually gone bad. Hopefully it's not worse than that. But I would like to point out for you guys that this one, it is not plain. So if you removed your rear flange, and this is a lot of shaft play in here, it shouldn't be you know, any play in there. So but anyways, I'm gonna keep trying to remove this rear seal and show you guys the seal and what it's made out of. You know, just out. It is made out of some kind of very thin metal, and then it's got a like a rubber type of attachment. The way it goes in, it's just kind of like all together part of this piece here. This is, you know, not something you could save, I guess, but if you have something to grab it from the inside and pull it out without damaging like this, you could probably attempt to do so. Not trying to rough it out with a screwdriver. And I actually damaged it kind of like on purpose by actually, because I knew I was not going to save it, I just keep tapping on it with my, you know, like screwdriver from the side. I know it's very crude method, but you know, that is that. Now you could see the bearing on the inside here. I'm not sure if I have these type of bearings, and I don't know the process yet to have to actually remove this type of bearing here. So I'm gonna have to see if there's some kind of puller. There is grease over here. Like this is actually still full of grease, and it reaches just slightly over here. So I guess this keeps the bearing, you know, nicely lubricated as you're driving. So if this oil is not getting there, if you're low on oil, the gear lube or whatever, it is gonna mess up your bearing. It's gonna heat up and just gonna mess up. But anyways, I'm gonna try to play around with it, see if I could I don't know, like push it with a screwdriver, see how difficult it is in there, you know. I mean, I guess let's test this out, see if I could just get this bearing to move at all. I mean, I don't have my hopes up, but I guess pull it out. Sorry for the camera shake. I am holding this thing in my left arm. And I think this actually will end up being a big job, where in order for you to actually replace the bearing, you'll have to disassemble the whole rear end of this thing and just remove everything, including all the bearings on the inside. So this will be a really big job, more than I actually want to do if that's the case. But according to what I could see here, you know, that's actually what it looks like. And I also watched some videos for a different type of make and model, not a Sprinter, but other people trying to do theirs, and that's what they had to do, disassemble everything. So if I cannot actually replace this rear bearing, then I'm not going to. I'm just gonna go ahead and replace the whole rear differential from another one of my Sprinters, and just pop that thing in there instead of having to do the bearing, because it's more than I actually want. Yeah, guys, once actually removing the seal, you can see mine's kind of like tore up a little bit. This is the rubber portion. It is made out of metal, which you'll see in the video. And you know, everybody's actually struggling to remove these things, and everybody damages in them like I did. I kind of damaged it on purpose, because I'm not thinking about reusing this type of a seal, because when you take it apart, you're doing it to replace the seal. So so definitely, like, you know, there's no plans in saving it. But it is made out of metal, and you can use a screwdriver to remove it, but they do have a proper tool to pull it out, like with one of those like slide hammers. I've seen people do that, and then they pull it out really nicely, but not on this piece. I've seen it, you know, done for those rear ones over there. So I guess you could use a slide hammer to remove it, but you could just as easily use a screwdriver. Well, sorry to disappoint you guys. We weren't able to remove the rear bearing. However, we did remove the flange, we did remove the seal. If this was all about just removing a flange, replacing a seal, it would have been actually a pretty easy job. But I'm afraid it's going to be a pretty big job if I actually need to replace that flange type of bearing. And together with the seal, I will have to, you know, disassemble the entire rear end, which I don't want to really do right now. I don't want to have to rebuild it. I do want to do it in a future video, so if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. But right now I'm kind of limited on time, because it is this vehicle that I'm working on, and I want to actually get something that's guaranteed and it's working right away. This is why I'm gonna actually take that Sprinter right there, the one's got a stripe on it. That one's got a 290,000 mileage on it, and I'm just gonna take the rear end from that, pop it in this Sprinter, and call it a day. And I'm just gonna have to do this, you know, sometime this week. Hopefully, you know, the weather kind of gives and stuff, because it has been kind of cold, but it's okay. I am kind of like dressed up, you know, for the winter and stuff. But seems like that's what I'm gonna have to do, because it's a little bit less work, even though it's still a lot of work, because I'm technically gonna have to do double the job, because I have to pull that one off, this one off, then roll this one here and another one back there. But we'll see. I might just leave that one jacked up on, you know, like on blocks or something like that, and we'll leave it like that. But anyways, guys, it is what it is. The best thing I'll tell you guys is that we are learning, and that's what's important, you know, important thing about it. And I'm still learning how to do these things. I've never attempted to rebuild the rear end, so before I attempt to do it, I want to learn as much information as possible. I do have Sprinter manuals that I could actually use for reference, so I'm gonna look into that. But as far as rebuilding goes, I'm gonna have to save this for like another video, plus by that time I'll be a little bit more prepared. So I hope you guys got a sense out of this video, like what is this job actually entails. And if I'm not willing to do it, then it must be kind of like bigger job than you want to tackle. But I'm not saying I'm not willing, you know, I'm just not willing to right now at this minute, because I don't have enough information. But you guys do know that on my channel I have a lot of videos, I have a lot of information that I do know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to claim that I know everything. And just to get this out there, guys, I'm still just a regular do-it-yourselfer. You know, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not sure when I'm going to consider myself one, but I know a lot of you guys consider me into knowing a lot of these things, and that is true. But I think a mechanic, they do have a lot more practice, but I have experience when it comes to working with these things, because I've dealt with it. You know, this is going on 13 years now. Every single different type of breakdown. It's just some stuff, you know, it takes time to really actually get into and actually do. Like this rear differential, I just never had to rebuild it. So I guess there's the first time for everything. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless you. See you guys in my next
My name is Serge Zimaleta. I'm 37 years old. And yes, I experienced success after buying my first home for cash. Back in 2011, I was broke, but I learned to solve problems on my own. Now I'm helping others to solve their problems. I know what pitfalls to avoid to stay profitable in business. Need motivation to be more successful in your life? Do you have Sprinter expedite or business problems? Then subscribe. Let's find creative solutions to your problems. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of my helpful videos.